Hello and welcome to our podcast, How Are Your Pigeons, which takes a look at life in the northeast of Scotland through the perspective of myself, Joanna Fraser.
And me, Clare Scott. We take a look at what's going on in the region with suggestions of things to do, places to try and more, all with a liberal sprinkling of our opinions, thoughts and views. So Joanna, how are your pigeons?
In fine fettle, Clare. And what about yourself?
For chuffed. I'm feeling particularly well connected, as How Are Your Pigeons, our podcast, is now available on all main podcast providers. So that includes Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So quite exciting news.
Oh, as our listenership potentially expands as well, it's maybe time to explain the title of our podcast. It only took us until episode 6 to get round to saying why we called How Are Your Pigeons.
We like to keep people in suspense for a little while. I think that's fine. I volunteer you to do the explanation, Joanna, since it was your good self who came up with the name, which I happen to love.
How Are Your Pigeons is quite simply, in Doric, the traditional greeting when you meet somebody is, Clare, foo's your doos, which literally translates as, how are your pigeons? And the proper response is, pecking awa, or chavin awa. So I have no idea why you would want to ask after somebody's pigeons, but we have jumped onto that concept because we thought it was a great way of explaining that we translated what was going on in the northeast of Scotland.
Coming up, we speak about which doors we want to be walking through in September. Now that we've covered that and provided a little insight for our listeners, I'm dying to find out what you've been up to lately, Joanna. Any news for us?
Well, I feel I do need to update you from what we were talking about last episode. Nadara's, I was off to the lovely wine bar in Stonehaven. I think I actually dropped my headset and just jogged to the train. It was absolutely amazing. I had the burrata again. We had gorgeous bits of wine and nibbles. We had a whole platter. It was lovely. On the other side of the scales here, the netball is still going strong, so I'm still burning off the calories at the other end. I do have a top tip for you though, Clare. I've been out and about and we ended up at Finzean Farm Shop. Can I just put in a wee shout for their afternoon tea? It was a 3-tiered cake stand with everything a lady could want for her afternoon tea. There were sandwiches, there was teensy sausage rolls, there was baby quiches, there were 2 types of scones, cheese and fruit. There were Scotch pancakes, there were meringues with cream, there were strawberries, there was old school cake. My friend said to me, come hungry and you'll still need a doggy bag. And I have to say, she was completely correct.
That sounds very nice indeed. I love that we're all about balance on this podcast. We have a little bit of physical activity, then we have at least 2 outings to different eateries. I'll have to add it to the list. Was it for a special occasion or was it just because?
I was catching up with a very good friend of mine over endless cups of tea, so it was lovely, lovely. Oh, and one other thing I meant to say to you, Clare, I took you up on your recommendation of going to Crathis, and I visited Yoke and Maison Castagny.
Thank you for following it up. It's always glad to know. I'm always glad to know that other people find things useful, including your good self, because we share a lot between us and we go to different places. So it's great to know that you were a little inspired by that. And what did you have at Maison Castagny? Did you have a croissant or something nice?
Oh, they have beautiful coffee. I have to also say thank you to Claire Castagny, who was in touch with the podcast, to say thank you for giving them such a great shout out. So, Clare, I've filled you up with a lot of my news. What have you been up to?
I do indeed have something else for you. I'm going to say it's something a little bit different, but you'll definitely have heard of it. I'm going to try it now. I've been on the Aberdeen Adventurer. Are you familiar with the Aberdeen Adventurer?
I have heard of it. I have indeed. I've always wanted to go, but never actually got round to it, which is one of my failings.
Not at all. There are loads of places that you recommend to me that I always mean to get to and don't quite. So, Aberdeen Adventurer, I think, like lots of people, I saw loads of stuff when it was launched. It is, of course, the open-top bus tour of Aberdeen. I thought, oh, that sounds quite fun. I must get round to it. And there was a nice sunny day. So I hopped on the hop on, hop off Aberdeen Adventurer, and I would really recommend it. What a fun thing to do. And because it was a nice sunny day, the top deck was full. So quite nice atmosphere as well. So it goes round, don't know if you already know where it goes, but it covers Old Aberdeen. It goes past Pittodrie, past the beach, and Duthie Park, little bit of the West End with Queen's Road. They go past the music hall, His Majesty's Theatre, and so forth. So a nice tour of Aberdeen.
When I go to a different city, I love an open top bus tour as a really quick way to get your bearings and also find out a bit about the city. So I take this has got a commentary on board.
I'm really glad you mentioned the commentary, because one of my top tips to anybody who would like to do it is, as you get on, there are little headphones. There's quite a discreet little container for them as you get on. We grab them and then you plug in once you're seated. And I would say that a lot of people round about me did not have the headphones. I think they'd overlooked them as they got on, which I think is an awful shame. It was through choice because the commentary is excellent. I found out loads of things. Please don't ask me to recall them all now, but I found out a lot about the city. And one of the other things, which may be of interest to you and our listeners, is on the commentary, they regularly refer to an app that I had overlooked about Aberdeen. And it apparently has loads more information, walking trails, etc. Now, it is called Our Aberdeen, and we will link to it in the show notes because, as I say, the commentary referred to, and if you would like to do a walking trail of this part of the city, you can find out more on the Our Aberdeen app.
That sounds super. And you've talked before about being a tourist in your own city. It's such a good idea. I would love to take up the Aberdeen Adventurer, but I have a feeling it's a limited time offer, isn't it?
The tour operates between the 30th of March and the 20th of September. So you still have a short amount of time and hopefully we'll still get a number of sunny days, although you don't have to be on the open deck if it is not so nice, but you only have until the 20th of September this year.
Coming up, rowies or butteries. But now we're over to our ongoing feature of
Oot and About.
Clare, our Oot and About, known on the county line as Indoors Outdoors. The feature has a theme within a theme this episode, because guess what's coming up?
Now, I do have a sneaky inkling about what might be coming up, but I would like you to reveal all, Joanna, because I know you're just bursting to do so.
Oh yes, it's Doors Open Day. So Doors Open Day is an annual free public event, a festival if you will, and it offers unique experiences, fun days out and a new perspective on buildings and shared spaces all the way across Scotland. Now, it's on different weekends throughout the country, and it's Doors Open Day in Aberdeen on the 5th and 6th of September, but in Aberdeenshire it is the 19th and 20th of September. Now, we were talking about being tourists in your own city. This is just the ideal opportunity. Get out, see different places, and also a lot of them they either open up bits of the place that they wouldn't normally, or they'll put on a tour, or they'll put on a talk. I tell you, one of the talks I found in Aberdeen is a talk by Dr. Chris Crawley, and it's on Aberdeen and piracy. Now, who doesn't want to sit and hear about Aberdeen's history with piracy? And it's on at 1 o'clock on the Saturday, and it has booking essential, insert pirate joke here. However, there are some places that are on it quite a lot. There are some that are new for 2026. I tell you why I love Doors Open Day, Clare. This would be pre-COVID, but I had a couple of friends coming up from Helensburgh and they were coming up to see me and spend the weekend in Aberdeen. Anyway, it so happened it coincided with Doors Open Day. Aha, thought I, what a great way to spend a sunny day out. So we had a sunny day. We popped around through the Tivoli, all the way around that. It was absolutely fabulous tour. We went to the Tolbooth Museum, which is full of dungeons and dark stairs and a real sense of history, as I recall. Then we walked down to the old Harbour Masters building, down beside, is that Pochraquay? Down beside the Marine Operations Centre. Had a look round there. A fabulous day out. Then we went along the beachfront, grabbed something to eat. And my friends were just like, oh my God, you live in such an amazing city. The sun was shining. Fantastic. So I've never disabused them. They think Aberdeen's like this all the time. but they're left with an amazing memory of Aberdeen. And it's also left me with really fond sentiment for Doors Open Day. So every time I see it's coming on, I'm like, right, that's it. I'm going to get out there and discover something new.
Yeah, it's not just for strangers to our city, it's for all of us as well. And what an absolute gift, though, to have Doors Open Day on the same weekend that you've got visitors.
I have been leafing through. I found a couple of things you might be interested in, Claire. Aberdeen's oldest funeral directors is opening its doors, Gordon and Watson on Rosebank Place. Everything you ever wanted to know about funeral directors. Does that appeal?
I'm not sure if it appeals, but what it does underline is what I love about Doors Open Day, about the absolute variety.
Well, they see, this is the difference between you and me. I would love to go and see this. This would be amazing.
Not saying I wouldn't, and I would urge you to report back if you go. But having looked myself, it's not to say it's not a wonderful activity, but there were some other things that were jumping out at me first, shall we say.
What's taking your fancy?
Well, I really was quite intrigued to find out about the Anne H. Cruikshank Observatory, which is a new university astronomy facility, the University of Aberdeen.
We've got an observatory. I am woefully underinformed.
Now, again, you will have to book a tour for that. So if you did fancy that, you can visit the gardens throughout and indeed throughout the year. But for the observatory tours, you do have to book, and it houses the powerful John Cruikshank telescope with advanced imaging equipment and AI robotic automation. So I thought that sounded quite intriguing.
Something just occurred to me. I'm beginning to think the Anne H. Cruikshank Observatory is probably related to the Cruikshank Botanic Garden. We'll let others write in and tell us exactly how those two are connected. I also have more to recommend to you, I know. The Mither Kirk is open, so the Kirk of St Nicholas on Union Street, which dates back to somewhere in the 12th century, and it apparently was one of the largest medieval churches in Scotland. Worth a visit. And just up from there, there's Peacock and the Worm, which is, I used to always get every single picture I had framed at Peacock, because they were absolutely marvellous bunch of people. They have tours there every hour, so it's a print studio and gallery. So there's something to take your creative fancy to. We'll put a link in our show notes to the Aberdeen so you can see them all and pick out your favourites. Funeral director's number one with mine, but others will have different opinions.
And that's great because there's loads of choice.
Where there is yin, Clare, there is yang. Where there is Aberdeen, there is Aberdeenshire. So, if I move you on to the 19th, 20th of September, there are even more doors that are open in Aberdeenshire. I passed on a link to you earlier. Was there anything that took your fancy? Actually, I know what I meant to say to you. Remember you talked in a previous episode about number 30 at Huntly? It's taking part in Doors Open Day.
Yay! I think that's lovely because although it's been open for some time, for a while now, I think to a lot of people who aren't regularly in Huntly, it will seem like a new facility, and it's in such a key place in the square. So go visit, have a look round.
Well, there's tours of the building and also learn about the history of Cruikshank's department store. I have the feeling you'll know about it, but that's another Cruikshank.
Spook. Didn't even think about that. We used to call Cruikshank's department store Crookies.
I wonder if they had telescopes.
If you were born and brought up in Huntly as I was, yes.
I have various picks for Aberdeenshire. Again, we'll put a link in the show notes so you can have a look through and see what we've missed off. But I give you first off, Clare, Braemar Castle. Now, I knew Braemar had a castle. It's built in the 17th century. But apparently it's now Scotland's first community-run castle. There's a concept.
Interesting.
So that would be worth a visit. In self-interest, Eliza Fraser, or Great Auntie Eliza as I call her, she's not my great auntie, has a mausoleum in Cluny at Sauchen. So the Eliza Fraser Mausoleum, she died in 1814, and she's in there along with several generations of her family. This is mainly because I've seen a picture of it and it looks fabulous. And I know I've been talking about funeral directors, but if you want to make arrangements for your own mausoleum too, there you go. You'll get some inspiration there. Going back a little bit further.
Loving the upbeat nature of all your choices.
Well, this is even more. It's like raking through dead people. In Kemney over the weekend, they are doing an archaeological doors open. So I presume it's putative doors. You get to step back in time and discover what life might have been like in Kemney over 11,000 years ago. I could say something rude, but I won't. Apparently, they've got evidence of Mesolithic communities who lived on the banks of the River Don between 9,000 and 5,000 BC. Now, is that not a step back in time? I think that would be fascinating.
That's quite the multitude of steps back in time, I would say. And I do think it sounds amazing.
Anything else take your fancy, Claire?
Well, I've only had a very quick squint at the directory. I must go back and look at it in more detail. But two things sort of popped out of me that I was quite interested in. They're both quite contrasting things. Cairngorm Bothies, have you heard of those?
I have. I am desperate to go and stay in Cairngorm Bothies. It's all, sustainable in the middle of the woods, dog friendly. Yeah, I mean, sit and stare at the stars.
Well, you were a step ahead of me because I'd not heard of them, but they're a collection of 12 sustainable bothies at Logie Coldstone in Aboyne. Booking will be essential for this one. I think I'm homing in on all the ones that need you to be quick on the draw. It's actually a forest walking tour that they are offering, and apparently visitors will be invited behind the scenes to discover the story of the bothies and to look at how the site operates sustainably, and also learn about the environmental challenges facing the Cairngorms National Park. And I'm sure we're all acutely aware of the damage that happened recently with wildfires and so forth.
And it's a super contrast to all our urban things we've just been talking about. It's a bit of outdoor space, a bit of greenery.
Going to another corner altogether of our lovely shire, my interest was piqued a bit by the Museum of Scottish Lighthouses and Kinnaird Head Castle and Lighthouse in Fraserburgh. Apparently, this was the first lighthouse built on mainland Scotland in 1787. So I thought that would be quite a nice one to try as well.
I have just another couple of locations for you, Claire, just very, very quickly. Finzean Bucket Mill is open. Would I just say, perfect example to go in and book an afternoon tea at Finzean Farm Shop. And also Mill of Benham, which is down near my neck of the woods. And I've followed them on social media. They've done a fabulous restoration job on the mill. Very community minded. They've carved out paths and everything. They have got the mill open. So it's a Category A listed water-powered meal mill, which they've got up and working. And it's amazing to see. So definitely go along and get there. The community has come together fabulously to look after it. And also... surprise, surprise, they have a cafe where I still dream of the cake I had last summer. It was beautiful, almost French in its tart-like, I wouldn't say it had creme pat in it, certainly had strawberries in it. Oh, absolutely divine. So there's a wee bonus to Mill of Benham.
And can I just let our listeners know that Joanna's directory of places that you can have afternoon tea in the Northeast will be coming out in time for Christmas, perhaps.
One day I will tell you about my paella to high teas. There's another subject.
I am vaguely aware that you have a strong feeling about the high tea and the importance of it, but that's for another episode, I feel.
Coming up, Pigeon Post continues to home in on the best feedback from top fans.
Between all this talk about open-top bus tours around the city and Doors Open Day, I'm actually getting quite sentimental about the things that make our city and our region unique and special. It seems like a perfect opportunity for a wee round of our semi-regular game that we play here on How Are Your Pigeons? Perhaps Ian can remind everyone what we call it.
Off the top of your head.
So, Joanna, off the top of your head, what are the three things that say Aberdeen to you without saying Aberdeen?
Okay, this one should be reasonably easy. I give you seagulls. I swear we used to always say it had the largest urban population of seagulls, but I remember a birdwatcher friend of mine saying there's no such thing as a seagull. The things you see strutting around are herring gulls. Apparently they live nearly 20 years, which is a horrifying thought, and they steal crisps from shops.
Which is equally, if not more horrifying.
And you?
The first thing that springs to my mind is the Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen, the song. Whenever I was coming home from visiting relatives, because a lot of my relatives are down in the Central Belt, my mum used to break into it as we approached it in the car. What's up next on your list?
Number 2, Aberdeen Angus. Now, I'm a lassie from Angus. I've lived in Aberdeen. And also, my family are breeders of Aberdeen Angus cattle.
My next one would have to be really obvious, but that's what this game's about. The granite buildings.
Of course, the sparkling silver granite, yes. And we house, full of fascinating facts. It's like I've actually been goaded into doing some research. Second largest granite building is in Aberdeen, which is...
Arshall College?
Yes, exactly. And I've also been to the biggest one, which is the Cathedral in Seville, which is equally beautiful.
I didn't know that's where the world's largest granite building was.
My third one would be Doric. That's how we say Aberdeen without saying Aberdeen.
We sure do. And it would actually be remiss on this podcast not to mention the Doric. My final one, and this is no surprise, it brings us back to food, butteries. Or some people like to call them rowies.
Oddly, I grew up calling them butteries and now would always call it a rowie.
I grew up calling them butteries and still call them butteries, but I know a lot of people refer to them as rowies. I think it's quite contentious.
I don't know this for a fact, but I think it's Aberdonians that call them rowies and it's those round about that call them butteries. Anyone who would like to get in touch and correct me, feel free.
I've done a very quick squint as we've been talking, and apparently the buttery was indeed developed in the northeast of Scotland, particularly around Aberdeen. And do you know what it was that its purpose at that time was?
I do actually, because I used to work in the Press and Journal, and you would obviously run articles on rowies monthly, frankly. It was for people going to sea, because they kept well.
Yep, a high energy food for fishermen and dock workers because of its dense flaky texture and high fat content. Ideal for long days at sea.
Oh, it's what makes it so tasty.
Or with your cup, with your cup of Earl Grey.
Stick it in a toaster. Best way. So if you know more than us about butteries and rowies, and frankly, that's not going to be difficult, do get in touch. Here's how.
Email howereyourpigeons@gmail.com.
On the subject of getting in touch, Pigeon Post has been fairly cooing away this week, Claire.
Has indeed. We've had people writing in on a couple of different things. What have you got for me, Joanna?
Well, the lovely Gail, she of the pictures of seals telling us about the Greyhope Bay wildlife tours, she has been in touch. She wanted to just flag up a few things. Envirolution. Now, it's part of Doors Open Day, actually. So please do have a look at that because she's involved in coordinating the volunteers. She also recommends Tarland Food and Music Festival. Now, I don't know if we can recommend this because it's on the 18th to 20th of September, which is also Doors Open Day in Aberdeenshire. However, it's all about giving choice. I tell you, Gail has given us so many great suggestions. She has earned her stripes as a top How Are Your Pigeons fan. Do you know what? I think she should make a guest appearance soon. What do you reckon, Claire?
Oh, I think she should. I would love to have Gail on the show. Let's set a date for that pretty soon.
Cool. I mentioned Claire Castagny, who was on, saying thank you very much for the mention for Maison Castagny. But you've had somebody else that's been in touch.
Yes, I picked up a message from the lovely Romana, and this fits quite well with speaking about the Aberdeen Adventurer because she told me something that, yet again, I'm quite ashamed to say that I didn't know. She, a little bit like your experience with Doors Open Day, had friends staying with her, and she'd taken them on an Aberdeen city walking tour, which I think was free. And I do a little bit of research, and I'll put the link to the walking tours in case you prefer to explore Aberdeen by foot rather than by bus, just so people can have a look at that as well. I don't know exactly where all they went, but she sent me a message saying your listeners might be interested in this, which was really good of her. So thank you, Romana.
That's super. Thank you very much, Romana.
We've landed at the end of another episode. Thank you for listening. If you want to find out more about any of the things we've talked about, head to this episode's show notes where you'll find all the relevant links.
And if you'd like to hear any of our previous episodes, you can find them all on our YouTube channel at How Are Your Pigeons, or of course, through your usual podcast provider. And why not subscribe so you never miss an episode?